Hey, my name is Dr. TK, and welcome to the Abundant Creator Podcast. On this podcast show, we will uncover prosperous tools to help you become the CEO of your business and your life. I am a mom and wife who merged my knowledge as a clinical psychologist and professor for over 20 years into building a multi-six-figure mental health business and seven-figure digital product business serving others and doing what I love. Now, I believe that you can make a wildly abundant living unapologetically while also dreaming big, enjoying life, and making a huge impact. So if you are ready to achieve your biggest goals, then you are in the right place. So let's get started. Hey, great day, abundant creators. My name is Dr. TK, and today we are talking about some of the reasons why therapists are actually losing money in 2024. And so don't go grab your popcorn, go ahead and grab a pen and a sheet of paper, and let's go ahead and jump into it. And so number one is therapists seriously are overextending themselves in 2024. So what does this mean? What I have seen when I talk to therapists in my coaching programs online and also at live events is that therapists are, wanting to diversify their income, diversify their business streams of income. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, my analogy is if you didn't take your time to build out your main stream that should be streaming, AKA bringing in cash flow, and then you didn't build this foundation, this boat strong enough, and then decide to hop off the boat to go build another one, your first boat will start to sink. And so over time, what tends to happen is therapists may say, I'm over capacity. I've reached my capacity. They know that they should know more. They know that they may need to develop another skill set to be able to even have various streams of income, but they don't have the time to sit down to learn those things. So what do? They go on to YouTube University, they talk to friends who maybe are at the same level as they are, and then they may make some money, but they don't see exponential growth. And so when you look at overextension, they are overextending themselves versus focusing on one mainstream of income, getting it together, and then adding streams of income that, this is the key, that complements the mainstream. So I'm going to give you an example of what that can look like. If a therapist has a solo practice, the goal would be that you hopefully are treating that solo practice as a business and not just trying to get clients. So over time, you understand that in order for you to stay open, it's just not about you showing up as a therapist. You have to learn the back office of, a business if you want to keep it open and make money. So with that, let's just say 6 months from now, you're like, I'm good. My caseload is consistent. Even when clients graduate or prematurely terminate, I know how to get clients. Okay, that's great. You know how to make sure that your money is coming in and flowing on a consistent basis. So now what could you do in extension to your current stream so that it doesn't feel like you are not just adding a stream, but adding like a whole nother business entity? Well, I would suggest that therapists take the same thing that they're doing with one-on-one clients, and then they go and maybe do workshops virtually or in the community on the exact same topic. So where would you start with that? If you find yourself talking about the same thing over and over with different types of clients every single week, narrow it down to maybe 1 to 3 topics, and then go pitch yourself to opportunities, churches, agency communities. Remember, it doesn't have to just be the clientele. It can also be the staff that are serving the clientele. So you can actually make the agency or the organization your actual client, but you can offer workshops. Another thing you can do as an example is write an ebook. Maybe you notice that when your clients are transitioning, or maybe when your clients go on vacation, or when you go on vacation, they don't really know what to do. Let's just say if you go on an extended vacation, some people go on maternity leave. So maybe you can write an ebook about what are some of the affirmations that they can use once treatment is over. What are some things that will not open up Pandora's box that they would need to talk to you about that can be in an ebook? What are you preparing them for in the next phase of their life, right? So this is an extension of a stream of income from what you're currently doing. Okay. So overextension is a thing. The next one is skipping the growth phase. Now, this is huge, huge, huge. I would say in pretty much every industry. Okay. But how I've seen it show up for therapists is that they want to skip the growth phase or stage in business because they see how lucrative and it looks easy of when people scale. So, prime example, I sometimes have my scale students come onto the podcast and they come at different phases of their business. But typically, what happens is whether another therapist who's watching or listening will see them with a group practice, with streams of income, with contractual agreements, those virtual or in person community workshops. They see all of these streams of income. And I am sure that the therapist that's watching sees dollar signs, right? They're like, oh my God. And they have their ideal schedule. So, what tends to happen is there's two different groups of therapists who are watching. There's a therapist who has a mainstream, for example, a private practice already, let's just say a solo practice, but they're just getting clients. They're really not building a business. And they really don't understand what this therapist did, even though we share it, right? They don't really know all the steps that this therapist has done to build out how to do outreach. It takes systems to be able to do that. It takes a team member to be able to do that, plus running their already existing solo practice. But all this one therapist sees is the ability to, oh, I can hire other therapists to do the work for me. So what do? They skip the growth phase in terms of learning operating systems that can help onboard a new therapist in the future. And they just go out there and hire people that they know. They hire an intern. But what they end up running into later is HR problems, IRS problems, cash flow problems, understanding the legality and contractual paperwork of hiring a W 2 versus a W 9. They realize that the amount of hours that they allocated to supervising someone is way more than what they originally anticipated, right? So that's one person on the I'm gonna skip growth and go straight to scale. Then there's the other person who has no stream of income. They just see that they want the one thing that pays them the most money. And there's nothing wrong with that mentality. However, you have no foundation whatsoever. You haven't even tested the water to actually see if you actually enjoy being an entrepreneur, because the entrepreneur is not for the weak. Entrepreneurship, that is. And so that person will immediately, I had this happen before where those people will sign up for my live events focused on scale. And when they get there, they realize like, oh wait, what are these people talking about? What is this? What is this language? Right? It feels like a foreign language. And then they get overwhelmed. Overwhelmed turns into analysis paralysis. And then they leave the event either feeling like they shouldn't have been there, or they feel like they got bamboozled, right? Which is really not taking ownership that they did not vet themselves to be able to be qualified to go to that event. They didn't read the instructions. So don't skip the growth phase to go into scale, right? So I'm going to give you a concrete example and then we'll move on. In our community or online, we see that we, like I said, have therapists that come on our podcast and talk about mental health expansion. And what we find is that, the therapists come in with the I want syndrome, and they're not really hearing the steps, the A, B, C, D, all the way to Z to be able to get there. And what, as I had mentioned before, they're not really hearing that there took systems, consistency, resiliency, meaning you're going to flop. There's going to be a failure in there, but it's all about how do you put yourself back together again, like Humpty Dumpty, right? It basically takes hard work to get there. And that is something that I really want you to hear. Okay. So the next one that we see where therapists are losing money is ignoring the data and the numbers. Okay. So numbers tell you everything. Okay. So let's just say a therapist is seeing things slow down in whatever stream of income. And the question would be, are you going to wait until the thing completely stops, like the money, the clients, the referrals, the opportunities? Or are you going to notice that there's a dip, there's a shift, and you can predict it based on you comparing it to your history because you look at your numbers, or at least your tax person or bookkeeper helps you look at your numbers, because that may not be your genius zone. That's fine. Delegate it out. But what do you do? Do you get in a funk, and then do you stay in there and it's hard to get out, primarily because you had full control and the capacity to realize my caseload ain't flowing the way that it's supposed to flow, which means that the money isn't going into my bank account as I desire. Therefore, it's the market's fault. It's the inflation's fault. What do? We we put the blame onto the economical shifts, not realizing that we had a lot of control about what we could have done about it to turn things around. So I'm gonna give you a different type of example outside of mental health services, right? Let's just say if therapists want to go into the digital product space, right? There's a such thing as a big digital product and a small digital product. A small digital product is like an easy yes, easy creation, get Canva, maybe use a little chat GPT, but don't take chat GPT and run with it because it still needs to be how you show up with your brand and your expertise, right? But you may use chat GPT to just funnel out some thoughts. And then you realize I can create an ebook with some tips for parenting for tweens. Okay. So a simple digital product would be you may need an email list, you need some leads, you got to get in front of people, you got to want to market. So don't forget that when I say digital products, you just can't sell them on their own. But an easy, simple, small digital product would be like an ebook that's $7, $20, right? A bigger digital product is, oh, I want a coaching program. I want a course portal. I want a membership program. Those require way different systems than just making a sale through a stand store online in the link in your bio on social media, right? So what I would suggest to the therapist who wants to get into the digital product space is that in order to test you out and your threshold for entering into another skill set beyond therapy, because being a coach, writing ebooks, marketing, and doing therapy are all different hats, which require different skill sets. And even though you may be selling your therapy services through a consultation, your language is completely different than offering the ebook to the parent who does not even know you. And they're not interested in therapy right now. They're interested in some tips of how to talk to these kids. Okay. So you want to be able to test out the waters. You want to be able to see with the small digital product, can you even commit to building out the sales processes, not just, hey, I'm selling the ebook, why aren't they coming? So that you can look at what is performing, what is not performing before you try to go out and build a whole coaching program. So I see a good amount of therapists who say, I want to be in the digital product space. And instead of taking their time to build out the systems to then generate some money to then fund this coaching program, in which at some point you're going to have to hire someone or extend someone's role on your team to come over and help you with customer service, refunds, access to portals, email marketing, landing pages, thank you pages, feedback from your clientele, potential coaching calls if that's what you do, creating handouts, workbooks, checking people's work if that's what you do. We don't think about any of that when we're creating a digital product. And this is why I say, even with courses, before you even go to courses, you should, if you don't want to do ebooks, that's fine. Ebooks aren't made for everybody either. Then go to one on one services. But don't try to go straight to group services because you have not received feedback from people even understanding what the context of your work actually is. What can you give them from a transformation? So when you launch digital products, you want to look at their performance. You want to do what's called a debriefing summary. And please note, no results is still results. I learned that from my mentor. If you got no results, it still tells you something. And don't just jump to, oh, people not buying in this season. No, people are buying. Amazon is very much still up and running, delivering packages to our house every single day and to everybody's house around us. So please note, people are still buying, but they're buying what they want, not what you think they need. Okay. So don't ignore the numbers. Next one is therapists are losing money because they're not really understanding investing differences between therapists expansion and what I mean by expansion is expansion of the mind and tools and techniques compared to business growth and expansion. So for example, going to a CE workshop for, let's just say, therapeutic techniques or a evidence-based practice like trauma or something like that, it is not the same investment return of investment at the end as a business event. So what I have been finding out when talking to therapists is that they compare going to an event that costs $100. I'm talking about a live event. Like, why is this event $2,000 that you're having? Why is it $1,000? It's $1,000 because what you're going to be able to do when you leave a business event is make $10,000 over and over and over again because I'm teaching you about business. I'm not teaching you how to be a therapist. So the reason why those investments that look completely different is because the ROI is different. Typically, when you're learning how to become a better therapist, could that result in money in your bank account? Of course, because you can show up and share your expertise. But let me ask you, when you go to those CE workshops or those certification programs, and you should be going to them if this is your expertise so that you can always be up to date. Let me ask you, do all of them go over marketing and branding and sales? I can tell you the answer. Absolutely not. They teach you how to show up and be within the fidelity of the model of the evidence based practice. They tell you what you should or should not be doing. They give you a template of what to say. They give you the homework assignments of what to do. They do not teach you how to market to get in front of that client. So, what I want you to hear is that you need both. You can't say, I'm going to learn how to be an evidence based practice certified person about X, Y, and Z, and that's automatically going to fill my caseload. Unless you've had coaching in the past and you know about marketing and sales and you know how to position yourself as the expert. But the ROI for CE events or certified programs is to help you become a better therapist. Events, virtual or online or in person, that are focused on business growth or expansion is teaching you how to be a better business owner. Those are two different hats. Please do not continue to confuse the two and make them one. You being a CEO and a therapist are two completely different roles. Okay. All right. So, last one is therapists are looking at symptoms versus the big picture. Symptoms versus the big picture. And so, what do I mean by this? I recently went to New York and I was talking to one of my therapist friends, and we've been in masterminds together. And she talks to therapists as well on the East Coast. And she cannot for the life of her. So, she was picking my brain during lunch, trying to figure out why is it that therapists are allergic to actually going to get help. And I had shared something from my team member. She is young, under 30. She's very intuitive. And I'm like, can you please speak up more? Because she picks up on things very intuitively that our clients are not even saying, but they're showing it through their mannerisms. So she told me one day that I think that our community really wants that vibe of being able to tell people I did it myself. Therefore, their pride, because I talked about ego recently, their pride is getting in the way of them asking for help or wanting to pay for help because they really just want to be that person that maybe says, I'm self made, I did it by myself. And it's crazy because why would you want to say I did it by myself, but it took me 10 years? That doesn't make sense, right? So what me and my friend were talking about is like in therapist lingo, therapists are very quick to be able to tell you all the things that are going right and wrong in their business, aka it looks like a symptom list. But what good are symptoms if you cannot conceptualize the symptoms into a diagnosis? You don't want to put the symptoms in front of a person, a coach that can help you conceptualize what your symptoms are so that we can be also your case manager and give you some insight into what direction you should be taking your business in, even if you're uncomfortable with doing it. So I'll give you some examples. A therapist may say, I want to sell digital products, I want to have a course, I want to have a group practice, I want to be able to get into the community, I want to get paid $3,000 and up for a speaking engagement, right? But I also know that I don't have no VA, I don't have no personal assistant, I don't need email marketing, I don't need no landing page, I don't need any of that. I'm really good at what I do. I am certified in blah, 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 right? This is the conversation that we have. They don't say it like I just said it, but if we go back and forth in a dialogue, what they're telling me is symptoms. What I'm not hearing, but I'm listening for is, have you sat down and looked at the big picture of the diagnoses? What is the problem? And the main reason why probably some people don't want to do that, even though they probably know that they should, is because they'll realize that they are part of the diagnoses. Okay. So, what can this look like that can be all bad, which will then result in you losing money? Because I believe that also losing money is losing time, because time you can't get back, and time is wealth. Okay. So, let's just say there's a therapist who says, I can piecemeal my way together because there is a lot of free content like this video online, right? So, this therapist goes after small chunks of information. So let's just say they see what's in my program. They go find another business coach or therapist and they like, oh, they sell SOPs. Then they see someone else and they're like, oh, okay, they sell a subscription for how to get on Instagram. Then you find someone else who will give you some one-on-one at an additional cost, but they're just talking to you. They ain't giving you access to nothing. They're just talking through your thoughts. Right. So you pretty much piecemeal some stuff together through YouTube, through some books, through talking to various people, going to live events. Right. But what you don't consider is how much time and energy that takes your brain to continue to not just spend money in different places, but to shift on different levels because now you're dealing with different personalities or how people teach. What I would recommend is that you find a program that is all inclusive of majority of the things that you need. And I would prefer for you to take, let's just say 6 months to a year to take your time and learn the information in the same way, which means you know what to expect. You know when the live calls are, you know what access you get to the coach, you know what access you get to the community, you know what's in the portal, you know you can ask questions. However, the program is structured, you know that. And you can pace yourself because you know what to expect. And you know what that leads to? Less anxiety because you don't have to have decision fatigue about where to find the information versus spending double to triple to quadruple the amount of time and energy. Y'all sitting on losing money because you have no energy, because you have decision fatigue, because you refuse to pay $1,000, $3,000, for some programs, $500 to give you everything. This can be for digital products, mental health expansion. It can be for anything under the sun. But I'm sure you've been exposed to, even within my community, if you've been around for a while, one product that's all inclusive on a stream of income. But because you saw the sticker, even though I know that I highlighted the value of why it's great that you can go to one hub to get everything, because I'm looking out for your mental health. You look at it as, well, I don't want to pay the $3,000 right now. So what you do is you go and spend low key $6,000 in money over the next 3 to 5 years, thinking that you're doing something because you're earning money. Congratulations. But you're not realizing that you're burnt out. So you can't even enjoy the money. You're burnt out with decision fatigue that all your streams of income now are not popping because you decided to go learn from 5 different people. Okay. So in recap, we talked about overextending yourself. We talked about therapists wanting to skip the growth phase and skip straight to scale. We talked about therapists wanting to ignore the numbers. We talked about understanding the ROI between being a better therapist versus being a better business owner. Those are 2 different things. And we also talked about how therapists typically look at symptoms and they don't conceptualize the full picture, AKA the diagnoses, meaning what is the one thing that is wrong with me and my business and where do I need to go help? Where do I need to go get help? Who can help me? Right. So I really hope that you enjoyed this podcast episode today. Make sure to check the description box for any resources. It's usually a link that goes through all of the events, downloadable digital products that I have, any type of virtual events or programs that I offer, or also just the YouTube channel as well. Check out any type of resources that I have. If you enjoyed this video, can you please subscribe to the channel? I would love for you to come back. I have way more where this came from. And also give me a thumbs up and leave me your biggest takeaway from this particular podcast episode. So I've enjoyed you today and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Fire me up. You just finished another epic episode of the Abundant Creator Podcast. Now, I would love to connect with you, so be sure to head down to the show notes for any additional abundant resources. And if you are looking for a new tribe of abundant creators like yourself, connect with me on Instagram at Dr. TK Site or YouTube at Dr. TK. Until the next episode, create and live abundantly.